Hey y'all, so let's dig back in. We're in Esther 3 and we've just learned of Haman's plan to annihilate the Jews with the king's blessing. He said, keep your money, do the people what you want. So Mordecai finds out, and we're going to start reading in Esther 4 verse 1. Now when Mordecai learned, now remember Mordecai is Esther's uncle, who is also a Jew, who is the keeper at the gate of the king of the palace. Okay. Now when Mordecai learned all that was done, he rent his clothes and put on sackcloth with ashes, and went out into the midst of the city, and cried with a loud and bitter cry. He came and stood before the king's gate, for no one might enter the king's gate clothed with sackcloth. And in every province, wherever the king's commandment and his decree came, there was great mourning among the Jews, with fasting, weeping, wailing, and many lay in sackcloth and ashes. When Esther's maids and her attendants came and told it to her, the queen was exceedingly grieved and distressed. She sent garments to clothe Mordecai and orders to take his sackcloth off of him, but he would not receive them. Then Esther called for Hathach, one of the king's attendants, who he had appointed to attend to her, and ordered him to go to Mordecai to learn what this was and why it was. So Hathach went out to Mordecai and in the open square of the city, which was in front of the king's gate. And Mordecai told him of all that had happened to him, and the exact sum of money that Haman had promised to pay to the king's treasuries for the Jews to be destroyed. Mordecai also gave him a copy of the decree to destroy them. It was given out in Shushan, that he might show it to Esther, explain it to her, and charge her to go to the king, make supplication to him, and plead with him for the lives of her people. And Hathach came back and told Esther the words of Mordecai. Then Esther spoke to him and gave him a message from Mordecai, saying, all the king's servants and the people of the king's provinces know that any person, be it man or woman, who shall go into the inner court of the king without being called, shall be put to death. There is but one law for him, except him to whom the king shall hold out the golden scepter, that he may live. But I have not been called to come to the king for these 30 days. So Mordecai sends the information to Esther so she knows what's going on, and tells her, you got to go to the king. You've got to plead your case. He's got to know that he's ordered a law. He has given decree to kill you, the queen, and your people. Because remember, her nationality is hidden. And she said, no. Because in that time, protocol was, and the law was, that if you go into the court of the king without being called, then you'll be put to death. The only exception was that if when you came in, he held out or extended the golden scepter, then you were welcome to stay. But Esther, it tells us, had not been called to the king for 30 days. And her fear was that she be killed. She had not been called. She had no reason to believe that he would save her by holding out that golden scepter. And so for fear of death, she said, no, because that was her response to Mordecai. Go tell him I've not been called. And they told Mordecai what Esther said. And then this is probably one of the most famous verses in the Bible. Then Mordecai told them to return this answer to Esther. Do not flatter yourself that you shall escape in the king's palace any more than all the other Jews. For if you keep silent at this time, relief and deliverance shall arise for the Jews from elsewhere, but you and your father's house will perish. And who knows but that you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this, and for this very occasion. So Mordecai reminds Esther of several things. One, you choosing to walk in fear to preserve your own life is going to cost you your life. That's one. Two, God always, 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 and every single time delivers his people. You can choose to be a part of this miracle deliverance, or you can choose to be in fear and not walk in the plan of deliverance. And it'll cost you your life. But God is faithful to his people. And I think that sometimes we come up on these moments, right? That it'd be super easy to walk in fear or allow fear to paralyze us and to keep us held back and in place. But when we remember the faithfulness of God, we remember his words and his promises, we go back and look at all of the altars where we can find definite moments where he came through for us. It really puts things in perspective. And tomorrow we'll look at Esther's response to this charge. I'll see you then. Bye, y'all.